What a great shot. Thank you very much. Thanks, man.
Cheers, Selous Scouts. Cheers.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Steve Prophet. It is certainly an honor and a privilege to be part of this Selous Scouts 50th anniversary. I've been part of the committee with both Tom and with Pat over the last 2-3 months, making arrangements for this prestigious event this evening. Thank you one and all for coming. I'd like you all to raise your glasses and to say a welcome cheers to each and every one of you. Thank you. I'd like to pay tribute to those Selous Scouts members that are here tonight. And for those attendees that are not entirely familiar with what the Scouts do or did or who they are, I'd like to just take this opportunity to read something to you. The first serious terrorist incursions into Rhodesia took place during 1967 and 1968 in the military operations which were swiftly mounted by the Rhodesian security forces when these incursions were detected. The terrorist forces were annihilated almost to a man. Survivors of these actions, who managed to cross the Zambezi River and return to their bases, sat down with their leaders to find out what had gone on wrong, so that they could revise their strategy and tactics. They realized that their first mistake had been to enter uninhabited game areas in the Zambezi Valley, which the Rhodesian security forces knew like the back of their hand. For the Rhodesian forces, it was simply a matter of finding their tracks, following them and neutralizing the terrorists when they were brought to contact. This they did with considerable efficiency. The terrorist hierarchy became aware that they had ignored the major tenet of Mao Zedong. If the guerrilla is to enjoy any measure of success, he must have the support of the people who will feed him, hide him, guide him, and act as his eyes and ears against the security forces. Having grasped the fundamental truth, the terrorist forces set to work on implementing the strategy. Fortunately for the Rhodesians, at this time, a small experimental pseudo group had commenced operations. This group, modeled on the pseudo gangs which had been used in Mau Mau campaign in Kenya, set out to make connections with the real terrorists, with the aim of initiating a contact. This new dimension of the Rhodesian Bush War was an immediate success and produced a major breakthrough in the means of acquiring of hot, accurate intelligence. Plans were immediately initiated to create a new unit to specialize in pseudo operations, and the Selous Scouts were born. The impact of these men in their operational areas was immediate and electrifying. The Fire Force concept was initiated, and with the Selous Scouts locating terrorist targets for the Fire Force to neutralize. The kill rate rose to an all-time high. The morale of the security forces, which had taken a definite dip, was a result of the terrorists changing their tactics, rose with the kill rate. The impact of the Selous Scouts on the war is best illustrated by the fact that 68% of terrorist kills in the internal operation areas were officially credited to the Selous Scouts.
The more important aspect was that of our African soldiers. Now, these chaps are beyond price to us. They are invaluable. The training they go through, the limited numbers that pass through, the volume that starts a course, all these sort of factors make this chap a very valuable part of the unit. The unit is multiracial. It is entirely voluntary. They're all volunteers. To get into the unit, each man has to pass a pretty rigorous selection course. It's a very hard course. The percentage pass rate varies from 12% to 17%.
Rhodesia is no more and has joined the pages of history. But her security forces can be proud of the fight they carried to the enemy, for they won all their battles but lost the political war. And the regiment of the Selous Scouts can stand tall and proud amongst the forefront of these fine men. The Selous Scouts were innovative, imaginative, and brought a new dimension to insurgency war on a scale never before seen in any guerrilla war, in any other insurgency campaign. The Selous Scouts were a unique breed of Special Force soldier and have earned a special place in military history.
Sarula
The Selous Scouts earned an incredible total of 85 honours and awards, gaining the first of only 2 Grand Crosses of Valour ever awarded. And perhaps the greatest strength of the regiment was its tremendous esprit de corps, which was such that it pulled together not only men of different races, but even turned terrorists and bonded them into a unique brotherhood.
Sergeant Robin A, member of the Legion of Merit.
The Selous Scouts Regiment, which had been feared more than any other Rhodesian unit by their former enemies, and in whose ranks they had wreaked such devastation, ceased to exist.
Thank you. I hope you all enjoyed that. I'm going to ask every Scout member to be upstanding with his dresses. Tonight, we pay respect to you. Thank you for the service to our country. Gentlemen, cheers. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the podium our chairman and our dear friend, Mr. Tom Thomas. Put your hands together, please.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this special occasion. We've got an amazing 263 here for dinner, which a lot of people will agree is probably the biggest gathering of Scouts since the end of the war. And certainly the biggest gathering that we've had as an association since the association started in 1980. We broke the rule a bit this year. We normally just invite a few guests, a few important people, but we thought we'd just open the book and invite a few unimportant people. We've actually got 80 guests tonight, which is fantastic, and welcome to you all. When we only have a few, we like to single out each guest. But obviously singling out 80 guests is going to be a bit of a rip-off, and we'll be here all bloody night. So we just welcome a few heavies, if that's what they would like to be called. The chairman of the RLI, Bucks Turon, welcome. Chairman of the BSAP, Derek Rausch, welcome. And I also just want to mention Derek is the man who helped us. In fact, he did it all himself, basically. You will see the fantastic bottles of wine with our emblem, 50th anniversary, etc. on the table. Thanks to Derek, who organized these for us. Thanks, Derek. The hotel only allowed us 2 bottles per table, which is cool because that's all we could afford. We also just like to say welcome to Jock Purritt, who looked after us during the war and after the war, and with his boss, Liz. Also a special welcome to Dominic Hull, who, when he puts his hand up, all the waitresses and waiters go there, because he's the boss man, yeah. And then there's a lot of guys here that we won't mention names, but the Air Force have got a massive contingent. They asked if they don't have to pay for their food. And we've also got a large contingent of Rhodesian engineers here. Welcome. They're also a bit pushy. They don't wait to get invited. They phone, hey, we're coming, all right, you understand me? And I think the reason why they really wanted to come here and will be at the memorial tomorrow is because they've already got a memorial there. They just want to make sure that ours doesn't outshine theirs. We had our usual golf day today, and we had 16 players, and the Air Force did us proud and had their own golf shirts made with the 50th anniversary on. Brilliant, well done, guys. And but they didn't win anything, bad luck. And that's because I was scoring.
Just a notice of a brief introduction. That's not entirely true. There was a prize for best dressed, and being an airman, it's expected that we fit the bill. So we got best dressed. I wore this very shirt today. However, I did have it dry cleaned for you for your presentation. So without further ado, Mr. Thomas, this Air Force shirt is for you.
Well, thank you.
I've stretched it so it should fit.
This year we had a special prize made for the winner, and it is made by Bones Hewitt in the UK, who does these magnificent plaques. And not only did he make it, but he also donated it to us. So I'd like him to come up and present it to the winner. If you would, please, Bones. And the winner this year, and he's done it before, he's becoming a bit of a pain. Ian, come está?
Guys, I must tell you that, yes, there are 268, was it, Tom? People that have made the effort to come here. When those numbers started to climb through the ranks, I said to Pat, I think it would be fitting for us to pay respect to each and every one of those people that have travelled. So bear with me for the next 2 minutes whilst I read you a list. Thank you. From Australia, there is 6. Balfour Carnegie, Bruce and Hilary Drysdale, John Cartner, Dave Hodgson, Alex Skirving. Thank you, guys, for coming from Australia. From the United Kingdom, and Pat makes specific reference to England. Don't know why, Pat. John Ashburner, Kit and Linda Borden, Mike Borlace, Jeremy Cranswick, I beg your pardon, Bones and Barbara Hewitt. From the Isle of Man, Aubrey Brooks. Thank you. From the United States, Rob Cochran, George Hartley, Kenneth Newing, Johnny and Bev Vivier, who is the committee member for fundraising in America. Thank you. From Zambia, there are 5, Colin and Marie Lowe, Rod Smith, JJ and Sandy Woods. From Malawi, there is Dave Saywood. From Mozambique, Ant and Pat White. From Mauritius, Forbes Mavros, who's a descendant member. From Zimbabwe, why have you guys always got to have the highest numbers? 49. Well done, Zimbabwe. Pete Abbott and Louise, Nolene and Trish Barber, Mike Bronwich, Alan Bryant, Priscilla Daly, Pete Drummond, Steve Edwards, Graham Edwards, Robbie Fletcher, Bill Finnerty, Pete and Philippa Forsyth, Arthur Harley, Vainant and Linda Hart, Malcolm Jarvis, Fred and Maureen Jocks, Andy Cockett, Jeff Cockett, Abeus, I'm going to get this one wrong, Madyemba, Standrick Masvingera, Patrick Mavros, Alexander Mavros, Benjamin Mavros, too many Mavroses, Norman Millet, Gary Moorcroft, Sean and Lee Nicole, Passy Passaportis, Adrian and Christine Reed, Colin Riddell, Steve and Lynette Riley, Ian Ritchie, Pippa and Fiona Tout, Pete and Petra van der Riet, Leon van der Merwe, Leon and Mags Varley, Russell and Sarah Valari, and Hamish Watson and Lily. Viva Zimbabwe. From the Cape Province, or outside of Johannesburg, 42 members. The Cape Province in particular, 24. Wade Bergman, Billy Boshoff, and Cranswick, Paul Dabbs, Rob Davidson, Robin Saska Irvin, Adam Fletcher, Fee Fletcher, Mike Gibbons, Brian Combart, Stephen Louise Gregory, Stuart Hodgson, Graham Jardine, Lawrence Kirsten, Billy Lemon and Debbie, Adrian Lombard, Austin Ewing, Keith Saunders, Barry and Glinda Stranick, Adam van der Riet. Thank you, Cape Town. Or the Cape Province. From the KZN, Dominic Adams, Charlie Bland, Rory Brooks, Carl Chibata, Ian Dickinson, Eddie and Denise Edwards, Ian Farrell, John Millett, Mike and Sue Rash, Trevor and Moira Sampson, Ian Scott, Cecil van der Berg, Karen van der Berg, Brian and June Wilson, Wendy Woodley. Thank you, KZN. From Mpumalanga, Limpopo, there are 15 members. Jade Ashburner, Bez and Alma Besaitnout, Les Dunn, Mervyn Gallas, Fred Hamilton, Willie Jacobs, Jake, John and Helen Lee, Hendrik O'Neill, Paul Pretorius, Neville Robinson, Ian Waller, John and Leisha Volgaard. Put your hands together for all those travellers, please. The rest of us, of course, are from the great Gauteng. The committee also organised no load shedding for the next 3 hours, so a round of applause for the committee, please. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome our esteemed Selous Scouts President. Put your hands together for Mr. Pat Armstrong.
Thank you all for attending this momentous occasion on the 50th anniversary of the formation of the Selous Scouts on the 9th of November 1973, which was in a couple of days' time. What a magnificent turnout. Thank you. I'll start by paying a tribute to a proper legend. The word legend has become a bit of a cliche, bandied about recklessly by the uninformed. Real legends are few, and especially unique, often gifted people. Such a legend was Ron Reed Daly, founder and commanding officer of the Selous Scouts. Uncle Ron, as he was known by, was the father of the Selous Scouts. And if you're not sure what that means, just Google it. Such matters such as soldiers marching to their songs, which you've seen, complete multi-racialism, the standard, which you've seen, instead of colours, which was more to the African tradition. The eagle, or aquila, atop the standard, was done by the Roman army and before, and then the Selous Scouts. Before I continue, I ask you to stand now and raise your glasses to Uncle Ron. Please take a seat. This is not the time to spell out the reasons this mythical and deadly unit, which earned it the admiration and awe of professional special forces worldwide. Nevertheless, it is still widely talked about today in military circles, especially in the special operations side, and the lethal success of its operations is legendary. Another legend. Suffice it to say, the unit was a paramilitary unit that consisted of African and European soldiers, a professional special branch section that was an integral part of the unit, and would you believe, captured and turned enemy insurgents who ended up swearing their loyalty to the unit. Simply, the secret to its success was its meticulous, incisive, and bold method of using pseudo-tactics to fool the enemy and eliminate him, either by dispatching him or capturing his members. Simple. Pseudo-warfare is a dangerous game. You know, James Bond stuff. like double agent spying. And among the many qualities needed of operators were patience, extraordinary situational awareness, and above all, fearlessness and a calmness in crisis. History tells us that pseudo-warfare, which people think the Selous Scouts invented, took place from long before it was used by the Greeks during the Trojan War to enter the city of Troy in the 12th century, about BC. Sun Tzu, another angle on pseudo-warfare, the famous Chinese military general, strategist, philosopher, and writer, 771 to 256 BC, among many wise and famous quotations in his Art of War Chronicles, said, "All warfare is based on deception. Hence, when we are able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must appear inactive when we are near. We must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make him believe we are near." That's a little bit of what pseudo-warfare is all about. The Selous Scouts was a unique band of soldiers who, due to their uncanny success, created an aura of mystery. The unit was an enigma when, for political reasons, control of the country passed into the hands of the African nationalists. The Selous Scouts, as it was known, therefore died in 1980, and it was disbanded. Not being a political animal, I don't dwell on what is the past, but I do want to debunk a long and mischievously circulated myth. The Selous Scouts was not routed into hiding by its former enemies. The vast majority of the unit, 95%, opted to remain in what became the Zimbabwe Army. We have some members here who remained. Not only were they or their families not massacred by the former enemy in any way, but rather the former Selous Scouts Regiment soldiers seamlessly morphed into a Zimbabwean Army special unit. This later formed the cornerstone and foundation of the elite Zimbabwe Parachute Unit, which, thanks to the ex-Selous Scout soldiers, was the flagship of the Zimbabwe Army Special Forces, as were their highly professional turned insurgents, tame terrorists, as we used to say. For example, RSM Stan Muvangeri, who's sitting here tonight, retired from the Zimbabwe Army as a captain many years later. And two pseudo-operator sergeants in Rod Smith's troop in 3 Group ended up as majors in the Zimbabwe Army, etc. That is enough for me tonight. Thank you for your indulgence. Thank you for coming. More importantly, I wish to introduce 4 fine soldiers and ask them to enthrall us with their wisdom and insights. I want to start with ex-Lieutenant Colonel Jeremy Strong, OLM BCR. Jerry lives in England. Him and I are old school colleagues, senior and junior school, and a military colleague in a few military units. Jerry was asked by Ron Reed Daly to join Ron as his second-in-command to form the Selous Scouts. Jerry was awarded his Selous Scout wings number 002. Uncle Ron was 0001. Just to top it all, Jerry was awarded the Sword of Honour at the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst in 1966. So, if I may, I'd like to ask you to play that video.
A very good evening to all the ladies here tonight. Good evening to all the ex-Selous Scouts. And finally, good evening to any gentleman if they are present. A Majiba has told me that there is one gentleman with his wife from the U.S. Special Forces in HQ Tampa, Florida, Colonel Jim O'Brien and his wife Darcy. A very warm Selous Scouts welcome to you both. So, I'd like to thank the chairman and the committee for inviting me to say a few words to you all this evening. Regrettably, I can't be with you in person, but thankfully technology allows me this chance to speak to you. Tonight marks a milestone in the history and life of the Selous Scouts Regiment. Almost 50 years ago to the day, the Selous Scouts was officially formed. In November 1973, I attended a fellow RLI officer's wedding at the Cranbourne Barracks in Salisbury. After the ceremony, the late Ronry Daly approached me and over a few beers asked if I'd like to join him to form a new tracking unit to be called the Selous Scouts. Ron was about to call on the late Colour Sergeant Bruce Antonovich with the same request, and a few days later the three of us met in a poky little office next to the ladies' toilet at Army headquarters. Thus the Selous Scouts was officially founded. A month or so prior to this, Special Branch, comprising of Superintendent Mac McGuinness and Detective Sergeants Winston Hart and Pete Stanton, in conjunction with HQ 2 Brigade, had been running pseudo-ops in the Op Hurricane area. The modus operandi used was based on Frank Kitson's concept of pseudo-gangs and pseudo-operations in Kenya against the Mama. This small pseudo-group, made up of Sergeants Andre Rabi, Stretch Franklin, Flight Lieutenant Basil Moss, Mpiri Ngondo, et al. Unfortunately, none of the original pseudo-group are alive today. As a cover to our modus operandi, the unit was to become a tracking unit, and the tracking wing at Kariba was therefore placed under command. This original tracking group consisted of Ant White, Pete Clements, John Ashburner, who's with you tonight, Noel Roby, and Martinus de Kock. Events now moved very quickly. I ran the first selection course at Kariba, and the army camp at Makuti was used for pseudo training. Shortly afterwards, the first pseudo groups were deployed into operational areas. The rest is now history, and one can read about it in Ron's book entitled Top Secret War. So in closing, I'd like to wish all of you here present a very enjoyable and memorable 50th anniversary weekend. Hamagashi and Pamwecheti.
The next speaker is ex-Captain Rod Smith. There's lots I can say about Rod, but I don't want to get him too big-headed. I served with Rod Smith in the RLI where he was an outstanding officer, having also been awarded the Bronze Cross of Rhodesia for bravery in action. He later volunteered for the Selous Scouts, where I met up with him again, where he was an operational and extremely successful pseudo-operator, both internally within the country and externally outside the country. I've asked him to tell a war story or two. Very unlike Rod Smith, so let's see what he does. He was extremely hesitant. I'd like to hear what this fine soldier, ex-Captain Rod Smith, can interest us in. Roddy, did you find a chair? Front row, nogal.
Yes.
Please come up.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers in arms, most of us here are the right age to remember the music festival at Woodstock. And some of us might even remember Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young coming on the stage and saying, "This is our first gig, man, we were scared shitless." And the reason I bring that up is because that's about where I am now. It's a huge honor to have been asked to speak at this, but the first question that occurred to me and is probably occurring to a lot of you as well, is why me? You know, we've got all these extraordinary people that did incredible things in the unit. And I thought, well, you know, maybe that's the point. Speaking for myself, but I think also for a lot of us, if we think back on ourselves as individuals, we weren't that much different from the average roadie guy, insofar as there's such a thing. But because we were part of this remarkable unit, because we wore the brown beret and the silver osprey, because we rubbed shoulders with giants, we found ourselves doing things that otherwise we would never have even considered. And where I guess I'll start is where most of us started, in the unit. When I say we weren't that much different, that's not entirely true. Because, for starters, we volunteered to join the Selous Scouts. We made that choice. And that was the first small step. Okay, the next step was a bit bigger. Because they didn't just issue you brown beret just because you wanted it. You know, you had to go and get it. You had to earn it. You had to get through selection. And at the risk of being a bit of a windgat, not many people could do that. You know, it was an achievement, and we were extremely proud of that. And that was the start of the pride in the unit and being in the unit. But the selection was actually much more than that. It was a massive test, obviously, but it was more than a test. And you know, if you think back, standing on muster parade in the morning at Wafa Wafa there, and you deep down drag-ass tired. You've just gone on the side of a steep, rocky little hill after being up half the night singing songs that mostly consisted of one line repeated 337 times. You'll remember that. You know, you haven't washed for 2 weeks, you haven't drunk anything except water for 2 weeks. The last thing you ate was a half-rotten baboon and suds 4 days ago. You've just had your blisters injected with methylated spirits by the medic. You know, and basically you're standing there waiting to see what terrible things are going to happen today, and you don't know how long this is going to go on for. And out of the instructor's hut comes this dude. I'm not mentioning any names, but Mbewa springs to mind. And he's fresh and he's clean and he's eating a bit of watermelon. You know? And so, what's going on, guys? Just say the word, you can go and have a wash, you can have a steak, egg and chips and an ice-cold pint of milk, you can jump on the truck back to Berg, where the beer is cold and the chicks are willing and all that kind of stuff. You know? And what you're saying under your breath is not, what a nice guy. No. But the thing, what I'm getting to here is, while they were doing all this stuff, while they were busting our ass, while they were trying to break us, at the same time, somehow, they instilled that whole Pamwacheta ethos. Now, in all the Special Forces selections I've ever heard of, the focus is always on individuals. It's on testing as an individual. Ours was different. Yeah, sure, in the end you had to do it for yourself. But there was this Pamwacheta kiss that there were guys who might have dropped out if it was just up to them themselves, but because they were kind of part of this team, they hung in there. They even hung in because they were helping other people. And it was a big part of the unit. And so when you came out of that selection, it wasn't just that you were proud of having achieved it, you had been instilled with this Pamwacheta spirit. And once you had that, once you were part of the unit, you knew that whatever they were going to ask you to do, you were going to do it. Because of that. Like most great units, Selous Scouts was built around a hard core of professional guys, and specifically professional NCOs. Now, these are the guys that came from SAS, they came from RLI, they came from RAR, but these are the guys who've served their apprenticeship. They've come up through the ranks, they've learnt the trade from other professionals. They've done all the professional courses. They've got the operational experience. That's the core of any unit. And in Scouts, I think this is even more so than most units because a very high proportion of our officers had come that route. They'd come through the ranks as NCOs and then been commissioned. And so they had that in spades. You look at the armies, there's different kinds of professionals. You've got the play it by the book, inflexible guys, but then you've got the think out of the box, the mavericks, the wild guys. And those were the kind of guys who got attracted to units like Selous Scouts. Okay, and a lot of them are here tonight. But the one guy that this was absolutely exemplified was someone who's already been mentioned tonight, and that was Ron Reed Daly. As an ex-RSM, he had all the conventional soldiering background you could want, but he's also a natural-born maverick. He loved throwing the rule book out of the window and thinking out of the box. Now, when Selous Scouts was formed, there was, with some notable exceptions, there was a lot of resistance to the whole idea of Scouts among the seat polishing staff officers in Army headquarters, a lot of whom outranked him. With a less forceful guy, with a less dynamic guy, they probably would have tied the whole thing up in red tape. It wouldn't have happened. But because of his dynamic personality, and also because he had the backing of General Walls, and certainly back in those early days of Hickman, he was able to bulldoze through all that stuff. And also with his dynamic personality, his charisma, he was absolutely worshipped by most of the guys in the unit. So I think we probably all have a favourite Uncle Ron story, but mine was, there was one of the guys, one of the operators in the troops went off on leave and failed to return when he was supposed to. And a couple of weeks later, he arrived back and he was wheeled into Uncle Ron's office and charged with being AWOL. And the boss said to him, so what have you got to say for yourself? And he said, well, Isha, it is true that I was AWOL, but it was not my fault. He said, I'm possessed by the spirit of my grandfather. And every time I tried to get on the bus to come back to duty, he told me to get off again. And that's why I didn't come back. And the boss looked at him and said, okay. He said, yeah, well, clearly it wasn't your fault. So I'm not going to punish you for this. But unfortunately, your grandfather's spirit has caused a lot of trouble here. So I'm going to send him to DB for 28 days and you're going to have to take him. Now, the biggest problem that any counterinsurgency army encounters is finding the insurgents. Okay, it's an absolute fundamental of guerrilla tactics that you need to be the fish that swims in the sea of population and not allow the counterinsurgency forces to find you. And Selous Scouts was Rhodesia's answer to that problem, really, and it worked fantastically. Although the unit would branch out into lots of other stuff as time went on, pseudo-ops was the original reason the unit was formed. And it was very, very successful. I think I'm right in saying that about 70% of all the tours that were eliminated inside Rhodesia was as a result of Selous Scouts operations. And that's not to mention the large numbers of tours eliminated in external camp attacks and as a result of Recce troops operations. A crucial part of Selous Scouts ops was the very close relationship with Special Branch. It's already been mentioned, but unfortunately I've already written it down, so I'm going to say it again. The original pseudo-ops were a Special Branch project, and a section of SB was a permanent and vital part of the unit. They were responsible for the interrogation and turning of captured insurgents, known as TTs, turned TERS. They were an absolute integral part of the unit, and 50 years down the line, Tom, they're still the same thing. So we've still got SB at the heart of the association. There are many, many incredible stories about these operations. It's impossible to overstate the bush skills and the mental and physical toughness, the cold nerve, again, involved in these ops. Now, two-man teams free falling in the middle of the night from 20,000 feet into enemy territory, sometimes hundreds of kilometers from any possibility of help, covering long distances through strange country that was crawling with enemies who were often actively looking for these people, getting as close to the enemy camps as they could, and then staying there, sometimes for weeks, to get all the information they could on the numbers, the layouts, the routines, the air defense. Now, even today, most of us know very little about the details of what those guys did. Giants among giants. Tonight, while we renew our fellowship here, we were also remembering and drinking to those people who paid the ultimate price. Sadly, in the end, history was against us. I don't really know what happens after we leave this world, but I'd like to think there's a place like the Vikings' Valhalla. We will meet our brothers in arms who've gone before, and we'll sit there in glory with all the other heroic lost causes of history. Yeah, we rubbed shoulders with giants.
Carl, another fine soldier, pseudo-operational leader and great man. He joined the Selous Scouts from the RAR, Rhodesian African Rifle. He stayed on in the unit after independence. It was highly thought of and sought out after independence by the Zimbabwe Army in the parachute regiment. He rose to the rank of warrant officer, class 1, W1, missed it the bucket. And I've also asked him for some more food. So over to you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm back again. Myself, in 1973, I joined the RAR at Methuen Barracks. I was about 19 years and did my training, six months training, and passed out in October that same year. And our reviewing officer was Brigadier Godwin. During the training, we went to Mozambique and what. And after training, I was posted to C Company, which was based at in Como Barracks. And soon after that, was deployed in Mozambique at Msengezi. Soon after arrival at Msengezi, we straight away put in the chopper. And myself, being a recruit, was deployed in Mozambique. And I didn't know anything about it. But the problem, the selection in Mozambique was more tougher than the selection I did at the Selous Scouts, because there was no water. Water was a problem. You could see the sky, thunderstorms in front of you where you're going, and say, if I get there, we'll get water. But there's no water. So when we slept, we were dreaming of drinking water. The bully beef, you couldn't eat it because it's salty. There's a lot of salt. So you couldn't eat it. You need water. So it was a problem. Mr. Mavengeri was our troop commander. He's a platoon commander, but during that time, when we arrived in Mozambique. But however, soon after some few days, we were pulled out. When we arrived at Kumbura River, it was like I arrived in England, because there was water, there was what? We enjoyed. Then a few operations we did in Chueshe and these other areas, and went back to the barracks. While we were in the barracks, there came a word that There are people who are coming to do a selection or to recruit people to join a certain unit. And those people, they will come with such time. And eventually, those people arrived. And it was Major Strong and Porky. So they told us that, you guys, once you join this unit, you are going to do ground coverage. You are not going to wear any uniform. You are not going to cut your hair. And we are just going to get information. Oh, we're happy. Because we didn't like the drill and the guard duties and the fatigues they came. In our platoon, some of the guys are here. We said, guys, let's go. So we planned the mission. And they said, if we go, we are not coming back here. So during the selection course, there came a word that there are groups which were seen on the other side of the Zambezi in Zambia. So we must go there and capture them. Don't fire any round, but we want you to capture them. Oh. A lot of people surrendered because they didn't want to go to where? To Zambia. They were afraid. We said, guys, we're going. Eventually, we went to Kariba, got in the boat, and the instructors, they were clever. The type of boat we went, I don't know, it was a big one, so we went under. So we couldn't see where we were going. So the boat was going round and round and round. And I said, hey, we are going far. That way, the same place. So when the boat finally stopped, they said, yeah, right now, somebody, be careful. Be careful. When we got down, we checked on the ground, we saw, those things, tubes, which we got from our ration packs with butter. We saw, this is rotation, ration packs. It was a fire, which was made there. We said, guys, they are playing us. And there's nothing. Yeah. But we didn't show them. Then they said, they've run away. Went back to the base, and then we passed the selection.
A fine soldier, brave man, skilled in deception, a master of deception, an expert at thinking on his feet. Those are the three of the qualities you need to have to do that job. Thank you, Carl. Right. The last speaker is Jim O'Brien. Jim is a senior officer in U.S. Special Forces Operational Command. He's been very involved in sounding out the feasibility of affiliating the Selous Scouts Regimental Association with the U.S. Green Berets, famous unit, and other U.S. Special Forces regiments. Jim, an ex-Green Beret battalion commander at Fort Bragg, keeps in contact with us, and we think he's got some good ideas to talk about our legacy going forward. He works a lot through one of our people in Florida, Tim Bax, who's a good liaison officer for us over there. I'd like to invite Jim to come up here and tell us a few stories. Thank you.
First of all, Pat, thank you for the introduction. It's always humbling to hear about yourself in the third person. First of all, thank you, Carl and Rod. Your speeches were fantastic. I truly appreciate them. I'd also like to thank the Wanderers House. This is a fantastic spread, and the wait staff has been wonderful. So thank you very much. Round of applause for them, please. Also for the very talented Prophet family, for emceeing and picturing. These people have helped me out and our family out in coming in, so thank you very much for everything you've done as well. Thank you for the incredible opportunity to address you at this Regimental Association. You are unique in the global special operations community and in modern warfare. I know that I represent the United States special operations community, but also by extension, British SF, the SAS, SBS and SRR, Australia, New Zealand's SAS and SASR, and Commandos, and Canada's JTF2. I also represent our partner forces in Jordan, Germany, France, Netherlands, Norway, Thailand, Israel, Colombia, Japan, around the world. So the opportunity to gather with you on the 50th anniversary of the Selous Scouts formation is one of the personal and professional highlights of my career. I first heard of the Skazabdu when I transitioned from the infantry to special forces over 20 years ago, and then became closely acquainted by cold calling Tim Bax to speak at one of our special activities conferences. Since then, our friendship has grown beyond a friendship and beyond our professional bonds into a true friendship. And that has increased through hosting a small group of you to Fort Bragg to talk to the Special Forces Operations Qualification Course and imparting your wisdom in multiple ways to the Special Operations community and close to my heart, the Green Berets. Also, thank you for the previous honorary wing exchange. So if you don't know, a couple of years ago when we had some of the lads over to Fort Bragg, we did a wing exchange. That's what soldiers do. We trade knickknacks. And so I wear the Rhodesian wings on my uniform whenever I get a chance to. Funny story about that is when I wear them, they're unique, and we're all a little bit of a butt sniffer when it comes to other people's uniforms. Like, hey, what's he got? What's that? You know, where does that come from? So a lot of people ask me what wings they are. And usually are my non-combat, non-special operation, my special operation forces comrades will go, hey, that's awesome. That's so cool, man. Man, I wish I had the opportunity also. But my non-special operations peers will ask me, hey, what wings are those? And I'll tell them Rhodesian wings. And they'll say, are those authorized? And I'll say, take them off me. And you'll see them very slowly kind of slink back. And I never see from them again. So that's a good thing. But the opportunity to break bread with you tonight and share a few toasts for our fallen brothers, all in recognition of that you are the giants whose shoulders that we stand on, or that I stand on, is deeply appreciative. What you have done to combat terrorism in the name of democracy and humanity was groundbreaking, both in the scope and scale of pseudo operations and in special operations like reconnaissance, military freefall or halo insertions, direct action raids behind enemy lines, tactical interrogations. There are very few facets of today's special operations that you did not do and conduct in the crucible of combat. I've been in combat since my commissioning in Bosnia, Kosovo, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, South America, the Middle East at large, and other locations. And everything that we've done, I can somehow draw a line to what you've done in your short time period as a force. I've also served in some of the most secretive and select special operation units in the U.S. And no matter where I'm at, I find myself reaching towards your legacy. While current special operations are framed in our authorities, yours were framed in your national existence. And you laid the blueprint of much of how we do business today. In the early 80s, your structure and mission was the inspiration for one of our special mission units. And that capability has proliferated into some of our most sensitive formations. Your use of fire force operations was the model of the early stages of how we did combat in Afghanistan. When we formed the Recce element of the Iraqi Special Operations Forces, or ISOF, in 2004, we looked to you as inspiration. And the Recce element still bears your symbol as their patch. When we go into Sadr City in Baghdad, we would use the techniques you practiced and perfected in pseudo operations to get actual victory in the battlefield and save lives. I personally use your techniques of the Pungli raid, and I apologize if I mispronounced that, of disguised vehicles on many operations, short of your spectacular results, but effective all the same. When I think how you were formed 50 years ago, much to the disdain of the established leadership at the time, distrusted, under-resourced, dismissed, and then expected to perform, it seems I was reading my own history of the Cold War generals with our modern U.S. Special Operations Forces and our allies and partners over the past 22 years. But you prevailed, and I hope our forces will also, as evil continues to challenge freedom. There is a deep bond between us, and while my political leaders did not answer to your call in your time of need, the U.S. Special Operations community then and now stand with you as brothers in arms. The same values, professionalism, and dedication to service in the name of good permeates across time and distance, for they are the calling card of the professional soldier, and special operations ones at that. So when I wear my wings and people ask what they are, it gives me the opportunity to talk about you, to talk about the Selous Scouts, to talk about special operations, talk about what is possible in the face of overwhelming odds. Your legacy is carried on in the U.S. Special Forces and our partner and allied formations, ranging from the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Chris Miller, a close friend of mine, who was part of the Honorary Wing Exchange. And interestingly enough, in his office in the Pentagon, as the Secretary of Defense, the only thing he had hanging on the wall of his office was your wings. To my son, Matthew O'Brien, currently platoon leader in the 82nd Airborne Division, who also wears your wings on his uniform. To the current Special Forces, the current Green Beret Commando, one of my close friends, Gil Ferguson, who wanted so badly to be my +1 here, but my wife, Darcy, beat him out. Thank you for your writings and your memorialization. Your collective lessons learned have been passed on more than you realize to the worldwide Special Operations community. So as I meet all of you, I already know you. I already know your names. I already know what you've done. I've already known how you've contributed. The only problem is you don't. You don't know what you've meant to us as a force in today's fight and in the fight going on for tomorrow. I'm deeply grateful to be here and learn from your wisdom. I am especially grateful to the families who've stood by our side and for all their sacrifices and service. We could not go far without their support and love. The trail you have blazed is deep and wide, and the responsibility to honor your legacy now falls to me, our sons, and our Special Operations Forces across the free world. Thank you for your hard-fought lessons in combat and sharing those lessons with us. Please know you have inspired generations as your fingerprints canvass today's and tomorrow's most sensitive special operations and military actions. I would ask one thing from you. Please let me know how you want to be remembered. Please let me know how we can carry on your legacy further. Because it's not just your legacy of the Selous Scouts, it's our legacy of special operations. And that's what I'm committed to. That's what all of us are committed to. God bless you. God bless the Selous Scouts. And God bless our Special Operations Forces. Thank you. So as we were going into Afghanistan, I'm sure you saw pictures of the horse soldiers. Those were a couple of my friends on that Special Forces team, and they did a phenomenal job. Just like any good soldier, when they got out, they turned to liquor, and they started a distillery, a bourbon distillery, called the Horse Soldier Bourbon. I brought with me a bottle signed by the horse soldiers. I'd like to give it to you, Pat. One of your requests is that we at least open it tonight and share it.
Thank you very much, Jim. A very inspiring talk. Thank you very much, Carl. Thank you, Boss Rod. I just want to call on my very good friend and fellow rugby player and one of the finest officers I know, that Greek I was talking about, Richard Passaporto.
Good evening, everybody. I just want to give you one little anecdote which I think encapsulates the type of idiot that we served with. I was deployed with the assault group to Victoria Falls area, and I got a message from Comops that they wanted us to recce a bridge, which I deployed one year in Walla. Waller disappeared into the urethra, and I got a message from him to say, I'm not quite sure how to measure this bridge. So I said to him, well, you know, Waller, there's the binoculars and it's got graticules. It was far too difficult for Squire. That night, Waller decided to go and recce the bridge personally. And he decided that the best way to get the measurements of the bridge was to walk it. So he started 1, 2, 3, 4, and he got to about 56 meters. When all of a sudden, an officer appeared. No problem to Waller, an officer went down. But the problem was that Waller had now forgotten his count. He could turn around and march back. This is all unbeknown to me at the time. The next morning I get the most fantastic specs of this bridge. It's X long and X thick and X wide. Oh, I'm impressed. Gee, this guy's smart. About an hour later, I get the most rabid message asking me what the hell I have done. And I couldn't quite work it out. And they said, well, our big air squadron has intercepted a message that they have put out an all-persons arrest bureau for the guard who had absconded from the bridge because they had said that he had shot his officer who was checking him on guard. Well done, Ian Waller. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have some presentations. What I'd like to do is read out the citation of the recipient and then ask somebody to come and present it, please. Before I do that, I feel compelled to ask you to put your hands together just one more time for those wonderful speeches. Thank you. Karen van den Berg, the wife of the legendary Vice Grips, was brought into the SSRA committee as Deputy Treasurer in 2020. Since then, she has turned the association on its head. In reality, she should not just be the Deputy Treasurer, but also the Deputy President, Deputy Chairman, the Deputy Fundraiser, Deputy Memorabilia, and Deputy Welfare Officer. Thanks to her, all these departments are running smoother and more efficiently than they have ever done before. And all of this in her spare time while she runs a successful business. Karen, I ask you to please come up to the stage. Thank you. Will Mr. Brian Combart please come up to the stage, who is the SSRA treasurer, knows firsthand what a valuable asset Karen in the association has been, and more especially when he has been seriously ill and she stepped in to support him. Thank you. Adam van der Riet, son of the legendary Piet van der Riet. Adam is one of the 6 descendants members serving on the SSRA committee and runs the Cape Province branch. But whilst he also assists Wade Bergman with the website and social media of the SSRA, his design and advertising skills have added a new dimension to the SSRA. He is mainly responsible for the designing most of the association's current logos and information, which you see on the memorabilia today. Documents and the memorabilia being unveiled today and tomorrow. All the work and time he spends on production and designing for the SSRA are in his spare time. Normally companies would charge a fortune. May I ask Billy van der Riet to come forward and present to Adam.
Piet van der Riet.
Piet van der Riet, would you kindly do that? The Honourable Dale Collett. What can be said that hasn't already been said about this amazing human being? He puts all of us to shame. He has lived like he is now for 48 years and still carries on as if nothing bothers him. He farms, he rides a bike from Gaborone to Cape Town to raise money for children with cancer. The list is endless. He is one of the greatest inspirations to all of us, and he is going to be pissed off that we are giving him this award. I'm going to ask Vice Grips van den Berg, I'm going to give you the award, and you're going to take it to Dale. Jim O'Brien. Jim O'Brien is a great friend and admirer of the Selous Scouts and its achievements in special operations work. He has worked on and continues to do so on developing a meaningful affiliation with the Selous Scouts Regimental Association and the US Green Berets and the US Special Forces generally. Not an easy task. You have heard from on and about Jim O'Brien tonight, and you must speak to him about his thoughts about such an affiliation when you meet him. Jim, please be standing and please come and join us. Pat, please come up to the stage and award Jim's presentation. I don't particularly agree with this one myself. He's not been known to do too much. His name is Tom Thomas. Tom Thomas is the glue that sticks the SSRA together. Anybody disagree?
No. Never.
His dedication to and love of the Selous Scouts Regimental Association knows no bounds. Forsaking almost everything else in his life. And all that happens in this association stems from Tom, and seeing and guiding matters to their end goal is his forte. Once again, the celebration is all in thanks to Tom's organisation and communication strengths. Tom, your beauty. May I ask the RLI Chairman Buxteron to please be upstanding and come up for the stage, as well as the Rhodesian Air Force Contingent Chairman, Mr. Bruce Harrison. Would you kindly come up to the stage? Both the RLI and the Air Force have put together a memorial. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Bucks. Tom Thomas, would you kindly come up just one more time? On the Scouts' 50th anniversary.
The regiment. I'm Wayne Chetty. We need Dale Collett to propose the traditional toast to absent friends.
Thank you. Every year, this list of absent friends grows and grows. Very sad. Such is life. But we also get inspiration to do the best we can, who, for many of us, is a total stranger. And I'd like to thank Colonel Jim for his kind words. It somehow makes it a lot easier to remember our departed, our absent friends, when they are so highly respected around the world. Colonel Jim, thank you. I'd like you all just to bow your heads and think of absent friends, pray for them, and I will let you know when we can carry on. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's remember them with pride.
Absent friends.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our proceedings here this evening. It is 11 o'clock. There's still plenty of booze, and the bar officially closes at 1 a.m. May we all enjoy ourselves, and thank you for your attendance. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's parade or memorial unveiling. It's great to see you all. We didn't expect so many people, We didn't know we were that popular. But then we've also got a lot of ex-scouts here to make up the numbers, which is fantastic. We had a great dinner last night of over 260 people, and I think quite a few heads are a little bit swimmish this morning. So don't speak too loud. And if anyone falls over, just leave them there. The service will be a number of songs by the Selous Scouts AS, the traditional Selous Scout songs at funerals and parades. And we are hoping that those scouts here, who are not too old to forget, will remember the words and sing along, so that you who weren't in the Scouts can understand what some of the songs were all about and make your hackles rise. So if you'll all remain seated while we have our Shona song, which is the welcome song, sung by the Selous Scouts when men receive guests. Okay, thanks very much. Pat Armstrong, will you please come up and address us? Thank you.
The famous poem In Flanders Fields by Lieutenant Physician John McCrae, written in the spring of 1950 during the horrid and carnage of World War I ends. We are the dead. Short days ago, we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Field. McCrae then instructs us as follows: take up our quarrel with the foe. To you, from failing hands, we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Field. Today we remember formally at the foot of the first and only regimental memorial dedicated in honor of the members of the Selous Scouts Regiment who paid the ultimate sacrifice over the period of the unit's existence, 1973 to 1980. St. John chapter 15 verse 13 reads, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. This is the first time in 50 years that we have gathered together at a memorial to honor our fallen comrades who sacrificed their lives for the country over the period 1973 to 1980. This is a momentous occasion to be savored and honored in front of the stunning but simple memorial. Today we read their names with pride. We will hear and sing their regiments' greeting, marching and farewell songs in the Shona language, the language of the Selous Scouts. We will remember them as we do every year in the Selous Scouts Brotherhood. Every year we should do this, and we do, and also all the time. All the time. Their faces are indelibly marked in our consciousness and our minds. As it is said in McCrae's poem, say again, the torch be yours, that's ours, to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep. If we break faith with those who die, we shall not sleep. Let us not break this faith. Today, let's think of those men, and you know most of them, ex-Selous Scouts guys, who fell with their faces to the foe, and what they looked like in those times, as they do not grow old, as we that are left grow old. I've asked an old colleague going back to school days, who commanded the SAS in Rhodesia, to do the regiment the honor of saying a few words on this momentous occasion. Graham Wilson is well equipped so to do. As far as I know, Graham is the most highly decorated soldier for bravery and valor in battle who exists in the Western world. He was the only Rhodesian soldier to be awarded for gallantry under fire the whole group of medals. The Grand Cross of Valor, equivalent of the Medal of Honor, America, the VC, the Victoria Cross in the UK, the Silver Cross of Rhodesia, and the Bronze Cross of Rhodesia. So please join me in welcoming Graham Wilson.
Thanks, Pat, for those kind words. And good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, ex-members of the Selous Scouts Regiment and of the Rhodesian Security Forces, family and friends of the unit. It's a great pleasure and a considerable honor to stand here today at the unveiling of the Selous Scouts Memorial on this 50th anniversary of the formation of this unique unit. The Selous Scouts became one of the finest and most effective anti-terrorist units in the world. Formed with volunteers from multiple other units of the Rhodesian Security Forces, it is raised, embodied, equipped and trained for a specific role in the crucible of war. This cobbled together group of talented men quickly evolved into a formidable fighting force. The unit started as an experimental team, initially with men drawn mainly from C Squadron and the RAR, with representation from RLI, the Air Force, the Game Department, and along with support of the special branch of the BSAP, these men were trailblazers in the field of counterinsurgency. It is thought that a concept which had its origins in the British Army campaigns of Malaya and Kenya could be applied to good effect in Rhodesia. This concept was the introduction and management of pseudo-terrorists. It proved to be so successful that it was immediately resolved to form a full-size unit to expand and improve upon this unique capability. This regiment, the Selous Scouts Regiment, was named after a man whose name resonates in Rhodesian history, that of the famous hunter, tracker, and guide, Frederick Courtney Selous. And this was very apt as the Scouts took over the Army Tracking School in Kariba, which provided a perfect cover for the top secret pseudo concept. The Scouts deployed from Scouts Force, which sprang up throughout Rhodesia. They, along with becoming paratroopers, developed a mobile strike force, and with the tracking wing became a very valuable asset, contributing greatly to the effectiveness of the Rhodesian Army. Their special role made them a fantastic force multiplier. And in the rapidly escalating war, these men were innovative and flexible, with a distinctly unique approach to counterinsurgency. The Scouts were understandably much feared by the enemy. They made a real difference in the war by virtue of their special modus operandi, which meant they were much more directly in touch with the local population, more so than other Rhodesian units. Most people cannot even begin to appreciate what courage it took to approach the enemy, often at night, infiltrate and engage to fulfill their task. This, usually in close proximity to the enemy and face-to-face encounters, were frequent. I salute the bravery of these men. What is also not often realized, the majority of these volunteers were from the same background as the enemy and faced, especially after the war, isolation and some hardship where their principles stand. It's essential why we appreciate why we're here today. Primarily is to unveil this memorial and to remember the men of the Selous Scouts, especially those who lost their lives. When you hear the roll of honor read out later in a service, It's important to focus on each person, to remember them as an individual, and mourn along with them, along with their loved ones. Some of these names may be unknown to you, but they're all loved as a husband, a father, a brother or a son, an uncle or a relative, or a friend. I'll be remembering my friend from school and one of my men who was with me in the RAR before he volunteered to join the Scouts. We honour them all today. We also need to acknowledge and remember those men who were injured, maimed and traumatised. They're often overlooked in a rush and hurly-burly of our daily lives. And of course the other reason for this gathering today is to rekindle old friendships. Or maybe that happened last night. And together, get together with brothers from an era where we were joined in a common effort to fight for our country. It's important to remember your history, to preserve your integrity, be proud of who you are and your unit. The Selous Scouts Regiment of the Rhodesian Army was formidable, and its place in military history is secure. The journey to attain this accolade was not an easy one, and this memorial reminds us of the price paid.
Thank you, Graham. Fantastic. Lawrence, Christine, please will you open with a prayer.
Let us pray. Father, we ask it as we come in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. We ask you, Father, we open this unveiling ceremony with sorrow, but also, Lord, with rejoicing. Our departed friends are now free. Free in a better place. That is the truth. We can have joy because your word says, for by grace we have been saved through faith, and that not of ourselves. It is a gift of God, not of works, lest any man should boast. So we thank you, Lord, that as we dedicate this memorial, we ask your blessing on it and its people. All those names written there, Lord, were precious to us. May we never forget them. Amen.
Thanks, Lawrence. All right, will you please remain seated for the next song, which is Basaredo Res Lucy, the song when the Selous Scouts marched onto parade. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, will you please stand while Lawrence gives us the dedication to the Selous Scouts Memorial.
Lord God, eternal Father, you are not a God of the dead, but of the living. Look down on the blessing. Father God, reopen this memorial, unveiling ceremony with sorrow and rejoicing. We rejoice, Lord, that as your word says, greater love has no man than this, than to lay down his life for his friends. That's what they did. Look down and bless this memorial, which we dedicate to you, that the names inscribed may forever be dear to us, friends and families. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
If we can march Dale up here, please. The Unveiling by Dale Collett. I honestly don't think you need an introduction. Remain standing for the Shona funeral song, We Are in Mosul. Sorry to keep you standing again for the reading of the Roll of Honor. This will take 3 parts, 3 different men will be reading it out. First one is Mike Bromwich. Graham mentioned the experimental teams. He's actually one of the men from that experimental team. Mike, please come up.
Sergeant A.P. Robbie, MLM, 16 September 1973. Lieutenant R.S. Hughes, 18th October 1973. Trooper M.S. Tegere, 26 March 1975. Trooper Usamferi, 29 April 1975. Trooper I.P. Mackay, 29 April 1975. Constable M.M. Uchanyiwa, 29 April 1975. Constable F. Zaranyika, 29 April 1975. Corporal J.B. Graham, 13th November 1975. Corporal C.R. Myers, 17 December 1976. Trooper F. Marisa, 15th February 1976. Trooper W. Mapangonga, 16th February 1976. Trooper K. Takai, 28th February 1976. Trooper A.T. Mapapanzura, 9th June 1976. WO2 J.A. Nell, MLM, 26 June 1976. Trooper Kinyanlichi, 9th July 1976. Color Sergeant A.P. Franklin, 10 June, July 1976. Trooper P. Chigai, 11th July 1976. Trooper C.J. Jury, 18th August 1976.
Thank you, Mike. Next up is Tunawo Mnema. Come up, please.
Trooper P. Jonah, 13 September 1976. Sergeant Head Uranda, SCR, BCR, 13 November 1976. Captain RSS Warika, SCR, 12 January 1977. Trooper R. Rato, 14th February 1977. Lance Corporal S.T. Kowai, 27 February 1977. Sergeant C. Mason, 15th March 1977. Trooper P. Tinarwo, 19 December 1977. Corporal R. Williams, 12 January 1978. Lance Corporal R.G. Cook, 5 February 1978. Trooper K. Moss, 5 February 1978. Sergeant C. Ringisai, 5 February 1978. Trooper M. Rungwe, 5 February 1978. Trooper B. Whitfield, 5 February 1978. Lance Corporal P. Fazo, 16 February 1978. Sergeant P. Zambaro, 16 February 1978. Trooper I. Rosenfels, 29 March 1978. Lance Corporal P. Mudingwa, 3rd July 1978. Sergeant L.P. Grayling, 22 September 1978. Corporal O.N. Mabaleka, BCR, 2 October 1978.
Thanks, Tunawo. Last but not least, and White, will you come up, please?
Lance Corporal L. Marasi, 2nd of October, 1978. Sergeant C.J. Cripps, 11 January, 1979. Trooper O. Osiandaba, 05 February, 1979. FR D.W.T. Broom, 9 March, 1979. Lance Corporal D.E. Ndoro, 26 March 1979. Trooper K. Mazondo, 06 April 1979. Lance Corporal M.C. Jele, Bronze Cross of Rhodesia, 22 April 1979. Trooper J. Moyo, 22nd of April 1979. Trooper G. in Georgia, 24 April 1979. WO2 T.J. Baker, 27 April 1979. Lance Corporal Muchenje, 29 April 1979. Captain M.K. Hardy, OLM, 08 May 1979. Trooper S. Garth, 25 May 1979. Captain C.D. Small, 6 September 1979. Trooper S. G.S. O'Neill, 27 September 1979. Trooper K.E. Mann, 29 September 1979. Trooper J.A. Miller, 02 November 1979. Trooper W.R. Wixley, 02 November 1979. Trooper J. Muranda, 27 December 1979. Corporal M. Moyo, 14 February 1980. Lieutenant E.N. Perengozo, Silver Cross of Rhodesia, 14th of February 1980.
You would have heard the name Ian Rosenfels, one of those killed. He did selection, passed selection, and did the paracourse, everything. And before he could be issued wings, he was killed. So I'd like to call on his brother, who's come all the way down from Zimbabwe, and if Pat would come up, please, and now I'll give him his wings. Can you be upstanding, please, for the last post? And will headdress please salute? Please remain seated while we have the singing of our next Selous Scout song, which was the song sung during the lowering of the coffin of the Selous Scout soldier. Thank you very much. Before we start the wreath laying, our Guard of Honor, Austin Ewing and Willie van Riet, can you dismiss, please? Thanks for your help. And before we actually go into the wreath laying, another little addition we've added in. One of our favorite sons, Russell Jenkinson, died on the 4th, sorry, on the 4th of January 2021, and his ashes, he died in the UK, and his ashes have been brought out by the chairman of the UK Selous Scouts chapter, John Ashburn. And if John, would you just do the honors, please, with James's ashes? Thanks, John. Right, the first wreath is a Terry Lever from the Rhodesian African Rifles Regimental Association. Thanks, Terry. The next one is Bruce Harrison from the Rhodesian Air Force Association. Thank you, Bruce. Next in line is Derek Rouse from the British South Africa Police Association. Thanks, Derek. Next up is Roy Patterson from the Special Air Service Regimental Association. Roy. Next up, George De Jesus from Dickie Fritz Mothshell Hell. George. Next up, Tony Atkinson from the Rhodesian Corps of Engineers. Thank you, Tony. Next up, Adrian Sheesby from the Rhodesian Corps of Signals. Thanks, Adrian. Next up, James or Jim O'Brien from the US Special Forces and Special Operations. Thanks, Chip. Next up, Dominic Houle from the South African Gunners Association. Thank you, Dominic. Charlie Krause from the Selous Scouts Regimental Association. Only one. Sorry. Baxter Ron from the RLI Regimental Association. Will you all please stand for the benediction?
Gracious Lord, on this Memorial Day weekend, we remember and give thanks for those who have given their lives in the service of our beloved country. When the need was the greatest, they stepped forward and did their duty to defend the freedom that we now enjoy, and also to win the same for others. O God, you yourself has taught us that no love is greater than that which is given for others. These honored dead gave the most precious gift they had, life itself, for loved ones, for neighbors, and for comrades, and for country, and for us all. Please help us to honor their memory by caring for the family members they have left behind, by ensuring that their wounded comrades are properly cared for, by being watchful caretakers of the freedom for which they gave their lives, and by demanding that no other young men and women will follow them into a soldier's grave unless the reason is worthy and the cause is great and just. Heavenly Father, help us to remember that freedom is not free. There are times when its cost indeed is very dear. Never let us forget those who paid such a terrible price to ensure that freedom would be our legacy. Though their names may fade with the passing of generations, may we never forget what they had done for us. Lord, may we be worthy of their sacrifice. And now may the peace of the Lord, the love of Christ, be with us all now forevermore. Amen.